First, I want to say thank you all so much for coming to my 80th birthday party. It has been a very amazing journey, and I am so glad for you all to be here. Thank you to my partner for this amazing speech that he just gave me, sharing just how I've impacted his life. Little does he know how much he has impacted my life, and just how much work was done before our lives crossed paths within me. And I love you, baby. And shout out to my kids who just came up and spoke as well. It's so funny because I remember being 23 years old and I didn't know if I would ever have kids. And I didn't know if the Lord would bless me with this opportunity to impact the lives of my children. So I poured into the lives of others. And this kind of diverts into the road towards my impact in this world. And I always knew that I wanted to be who I needed when I was younger. I always knew that little Shelby needed somebody to look up to and to see as an influence, but for them to also see her, which is me. And I always knew I didn't have that consistently, not because the people in my life did not want to, but you have to accept people for who they are and where they are in life and what they're capable to give you, and stop having false expectations. And the moment I stopped having false expectation was the moment that I stepped into the purpose and the calling that God has had into my life, which is to continue to be generous and give without expecting anything in return. Because the moment you expect anything in return, was it even really genuine in the first place? My daughter came up and spoke, and she shared how her friends are so impacted by the ways in which I open up my home to them when they were in high school. And I recall being in high school and my parents not being available as much because they were working and having to provide. And my parents, really did their best for what they could, but that hands-on, everyday, house open in the display, I didn't have that. And so I felt it was important to create that atmosphere. I told myself many years ago that LA is my permanent home, and I told myself many years ago that being a professor at Pepperdine and teaching cultural intelligence was something that I wanted to do, but never in a million years did I think that I would see so many of my students celebrating with me at my 80th birthday. Many whom have gone to now graduate and have families of their own and kids of their own, and many who are writing books on new research on cultural intelligence. And I remember my first class, and they're actually sitting over there. Oh my goodness, I was a young teacher, about 35 years old, fresh out of my PhD program, and I had my very first class that I was teaching at Pepperdine as a first-time doctoral candidate. And it was so tough. But the kids were so gracious to me because they understood that I came in with authenticity. And as you heard Katie just say when she stepped up here and spoke about how I was able to impact her life as she's continuing to now be chancellor at the University of Michigan, I am thankful that that impact came from the influence that I had in her life, right? And just as Christy came up here a second ago and said too, Miss Chandler truly lit a spark in me that I didn't know that I had. And she really stepped into a position of my life that I didn't know I needed. And I'm hearing the theme here, the gonging sound being that, sorry, I get a little emotional. I did my job to make sure that everybody in this world was seen. And this might not be big to you all. It might be small. I was told to write a speech and share it with you all, and think about the accomplishments that I had and reflect on what each of you have came up here and said. And if I could be honest, I've been stuck on that one thing, and I've been stuck on the one thing being who I needed when I was younger. And I know that might sound just so mundane and repetitive, but if you only knew how much work my younger self had to put in just to be who you see today, to accept and to love me, because I didn't have anybody consistently doing that in a healthy form. And not because they didn't want to, but they didn't have that to give. And so even in my classrooms, I make sure that I see you. Even if it's at the grocery store, I make sure that I see you. You see Miss Joy over there? Miss Joy, go ahead and raise your hand. Yep. I met Miss Joy at the Apple store, buying a cell phone from her when I was about 27 years old. Ended up opening up dialogue, and I saw her. I opened up conversation with her. And that ended up being our lifelong relationship to now texting every morning Bible verses and scriptures for the past 25 years, and she hasn't missed a day. The importance of seeing someone. I wish I could sit here right now on my birthday and tell you, oh, I made $1 million to this foundation, and I bought this, and I did that. No, I just made sure that every human, whether they were homeless, whether they had $1 million, whether they had negative $55,000 in their bank account, whether they were a teacher, whether they were a janitor, whether they were a lash tech, whether they were the president of a university, or even the president of the United States, whether they were in a jail cell really trying to figure out and navigate forgiveness in their lives, whomever it was, I saw them. And I can rest at night and rest each day until the Lord calls me home, knowing that I saw people. So on my 80th birthday, I am thankful that the legacy I have left is that I fulfilled my purpose to let everyone know that God sees you regardless what you have going on in your life. And I put that in my work as well.